Got it.
Hello and welcome to
Hello.
this uh, new podcast, The Other Side of a Musician, let me call this. Uh, what we discuss here is values in the workspace.
Hmm.
I was just wondering sometime back, we've spoken once or twice on camera also and off camera also for a long time on issues of consequence.
Hmm.
Uh, so, one new question that cropped up in my mind is creation by itself is fairly innocent most of the time. If you're not getting into plagiarism or copying some other stuff, keeping that aside, I'm saying just the pure creation of it. And it is very honest, it is truthful, it is the pursuit of it is almost non negotiable. But the moment we have an outlet for that music, for the copy that I write, for anything that I do with my creative product, or service of understanding the creator. There are human beings, there are other people that you deal with, and suddenly there is a whole new world that opens up in talking to them. And there, then it becomes difficult to have A for apple clearly demarcated unless you specify it as such. How do you define these two spaces? One is purely the creation of something that has not existed before, which is pure, which is your own outlook of things, and then putting it out for the world where then the consumption of it can be debated or there is conflict or there are people trying to figure out what it means. How do you reckon the change of values, or is there no change of values in both these things?
I think in my case, when I'm like making music for like one of my important projects, Samok Symphony, you must be aware of that. I just released
Yeah,
the first song yesterday. So my point is that it's always been when I started writing music, original music, like something which I can proudly tell that this is completely mine. Uh, in the initial stage of writing music songs, when I was a teenager, at that point of time, it was completely coming from the heart. And at that point, I was disconnected from the world. And of course, I still feel disconnected from the world when I compose a song. And I think that is a very spiritual process as you proceed, if you as you evolve with time and as you keep making music. So it's like cooking and making art. Music is pretty much the same thing. I mean, that's what I
yeah.
feel. Yeah. So I'll tell you one small story. I was in 10th standard and I was very terrified with the whole examination of 10th standard, the metric thing. And my uncle, he was, just fooling around with me. He told me that if you do not score well in metric, then it's going to be a problem for you. So I started feeling anxious at that time, which my dad was looking at me, he understood. He asked me to start making breakfast for everyone.
Oh,
This was happening in between examination. And I asked him like, why would you should tell me to go and study, but you're asking me to make breakfast? Why? So my dad told me that just like that, I'm asking you to do that. Can you please do it for me? I said, okay, I'll teach you how to do it if you need help. Yeah, fine. So I started making breakfast. I learned how to prepare breakfast for everyone in the family. For that, I have to wake up early in the morning. And in that process, in that 3 days of process, I have understood one thing. When I was actually making the breakfast, when it's preparing the breakfast, I forget about everything, but only focus is at breakfast with an intention that I do not know whether this is going to be tasty or not. But I have to be honest with it. I have to do honestly because it's a spiritual process. The first thing in my mind was it should taste healthier and tastier to my family members. That was the beginning. And when I was doing when I was making those breakfasts, I forgot about the whole stress related to the examination. So that was keeping me away from the stress for a short time, which is good for health and mind. Also, it taught me, if you want to create something which you don't know, if you want to make something, you just have to, it cannot be just disconnected from the entire world. I think it's a very strong spiritual connection. It's a very strong spiritual process when we make art, that we must have seen something somewhere. We don't know when, what exactly, but some of those memories which we do not remember in our normal state, sometimes it comes and appears in the creation of the art, just like how we see things in our dreams. So I think creating art, creating music, then cooking, and then dreaming are very similar in that context. The good thing is, the only difference is you do not have control over the dreaming. Dreaming is like method acting, it's like improvisation. The script may change at any time. But when it
Yeah,
comes to creating music and art, when we in the senses, we have the control. Sometimes we give up the control just to see where the mind takes. And believe it or not, whenever I have done this, when I have done any kind of songwriting, honestly, without thinking about anything else, while making the process, while making the song, while creating the whole musical piece, in between, you always get a hint. Your intuition tells that how people are going to react to this song. You will always get the idea. It's like a future, it's like you're seeing the future in that process. And I have always seen it happening in real life after that. As in, the thing which you have dreamed, which you have seen, which you felt, which your intuitions, which your sixth sense was telling you while creating that song, like, you will always hear few words in your mind, that the song is going to get heard somewhere in UK or Europe or in Japan. Slowly, this song will spread everywhere, and it will just connect with the whole process is, your art is going to connect to certain people. You cannot stop it. It's a spiritual process. It's channeling. It's a channeling process, and that's
true.
how it reaches out. Now, coming to the point where we have to present it to the industry, or the entertainment industry, or the music industry, whatever industry, like, we can name it. uh, in that process, I think where we can understand is, there's a section who understands music business, entertainment business, promotion, marketing very well, very, like, how we are in making music. They are very good in marketing. They're very good in putting out the product. They're very good in promoting the music and films, whatever, whatever. So I think the best way to work out is openly telling what exactly your song is about. And these are people who actually listens to good music. And when they talk to you, when they actually listen to you, they listen to you as, not as a businessman or not as a promoter. They're listening to you spiritually. Your thought process is actually being shared with the person. And if the person gets it, then it's easier to know how to promote this song, how to promote this music. You actually know, we come to know that this musical pieces is for a certain type of listeners. It's not for everyone. And you feel okay with that. You totally feel. Then somebody comes and says, this song is not so good. I did not like it at all. You don't even react on that, because you know this is not going to work on him. This person is not going to enjoy the song because it is not for him. It's as
Okay.
simple as that.
I,
So,
I want you to pause here. I have a question here
yeah.
because very interesting, very delicate thought came to me while you were saying this. When you were describing your role, and then you were describing those who are going to market it and put it out for the industry or whosoever the listener is. Both times you mentioned something which was very, very similar. While creation, you said you know internally how the people are going to react, and that is the spiritual part. And then you said these marketing guys, they really know what the other person is wanting, surely because they are as good at their jobs as you are at
Exactly.
yours. And still, the sense that came to me is there was no conflict in the two, because in a very strange manner, you are a medium for the music to go out. They are also a medium for the music to go out and reach a larger audience. Through
Exactly.
you, through them, it is okay. There will be a lot of, there are times when you get ideas or even suggestions from non-musical people and they make sense suddenly.
Right.
So I think, do you want to uh, tell us whether that understanding comes from our own mindset, or is it something that can be developed over a period of time? So let me be categorical. Suppose there is a certain sense of innocence when we begin our careers, when we are learning the tools of our trade and how to work, and but that innocence is also um, is very big.
Yeah.
Then we become very cynical for a time that, oh, people are not buying this and I am so good and they are not getting it, or they are buying only trash and I will create only trash. There is also a process sometimes like that.
Yeah. I
And
totally.
if you are strong enough to withstand that process and then reach a point where you still retain your original goodness and also learn to deal with other people, how does this process work for you? And do you think it is a loss of honesty, or is it a good process to learn how honest we really are? What are your thoughts on this?
I have a lot of things to say on this. It's a very good question. Uh, I have to tell you one thing for sure, that you cannot just expect creating one piece of art. You create one piece of art and you cannot expect people to love it immediately. There is a word I put a lot of weight on, that word. It's called consistency. Now, consistency is not depending on motivation. Consistency is dependent on discipline. I mean,
Beautiful.
I mean, the problem with an artist's innocence is it's so innocent. We are so childlike. If we do not get the things that we want in a short period of time, we feel annoyed. That's a, I wouldn't say a bad thing, but it's a kind of a drawback of becoming an artist. That's exactly where you have to think a little more than a creative artist, more than a child. This is exactly where you understand that my art or my music is not the problem here. I think I'm doing something wrong in passing the message. The message is not reaching out to them clearly. That is the problem. So to understand how your language should be, what kind of language, what kind of communication your art, your music should have with your audience naturally, is to consistently creating smaller, bigger pieces of art on monthly or yearly basis. And you will see, you will understand, you will find patterns where certain piece of music in certain time, certain period of time, a certain style of promotion has been liked by the audience. Like, uh, if you keep creating a similar style of music all the time, there are people who would say, why is he creating same style of songs all the time? And then there are people who say, did you listen to the third song? I really liked it. I did not like the first song, the second song. That doesn't mean your song is bad. It means he listened to the third song because he was already kind of getting attracted to the first and second song, but he kind of ignored it, the audience. In the third song, the moment was right. Again, it's like improvisation. It's like improvisation only. Like we remember few actors for their specific roles. Like let's take an example of Amitabh Bachchan. He did many films, but I think uh, which movie was that? It was a film. It came out in the late 90s. It was a very famous film where he played the role of Vijay Dinanath Chauhan. What was the film called?
Agnipath.
Agnipath. Agnipath. Amitabh Bachchan have done lots of good films before Agnipath, but Agnipath was a shift in his
Yeah.
acting, performance, role, outlook, everything. This is not just because of the script or the director. It's a teamwork, of course, but I think I deeply understand, or I think that Amitabh Bachchan have done so much consistent work. He understood what could be the actual way of giving the message through his acting. He understood.
One sec. Here I have again. Your answers are prompting new questions. Sorry, on this point only, Agnipath wasn't a hit the first time it came with
Yes,
his different kind of voice. So
exactly.
this was also a question running in my head. Sometimes you revisit the project.
Yeah.
After a point, it becomes a super hit. The same project. It is just the timing is right. So
Yes,
is
I
it?
was coming up to that. I was coming up to that.
Ah,
Yes, I was
sorry.
coming up to that.
So please speak a
Now,
little.
exactly. I was coming up to that. I was like, so what happened is, if you pay attention, Agnipath, it took time for the audience to understand, oh, okay, this is how it is. Because they started comparing Agnipath with other films after a few years.
Yeah.
That is, that is honest work. That any art that challenges the taste and thought process of an audience is the correct art. The actual good art never becomes famous on overnight. Let me tell you this. Okay,
Oh,
I
wow.
wouldn't say honest art or bad art. The message, the communication message is the main point here. There are so many artistic musicians, artistic people in the industry, but how do you portray yourself? What kind of message you're giving, and how are you communicating with the audience is the key. Because a lot of time your audience doesn't understand what you're trying to say. So I think that is not even the art problem. That is not even your creations problem. That is because you're not getting the point of how to merge your message thoughts with somebody, an audience who is discovering it for the first time. That comes with consistency. I mean, you have to release a lot of songs, more than 2 3 albums, and if an actor, a lot of films, 8 5 6 or more than 10 films, then you understand how to give out that message, how to communicate with the audience. I think it also makes you more comfortable and more confident that I have tried this, I've tried this, I've tried that. This didn't work, that doesn't work, this worked, that work. And these are the things I should not repeat. These are the things I should repeat. So you get a lot of clarity in consistency. Then I think it becomes easier with time. And at one point of time, you don't really worry whether it's going to work out or not because you already know it's going to work out.
Okay, so is that karma or destiny?
Uh,
This part of the same project working at some point.
huh.
One part you have explained here that we keep on understanding, or maybe we continue the example of Agnipath surely because it's a famous example. Before that, Amitabh was doing a certain kind of role from film to film. They were working or not working depending upon whatever it was. He wanted to try something else along with others, obviously the director's vision in him. But he put his reputation and work on the line because he believed in the project.
Exactly.
And you are saying that is one aspect that is important because the artist has now gone beyond success or defeat. He wants to try new things with his art and he's putting it out.
Yes. You always think that my album or my film did not do well on the release. Actually, every new creative thing has you have to understand this very simple fact. Okay.
Yeah.
This is similar in films as well as in music as well. If you go through the history, all the new style of music, grunge, alternative, heavy metal, punk. The first ever record which was released in punk or heavy metal or grunge, these records were, why were they called pioneers? Because they have done something which was not done before. And that's why the audience first reaction is always, this is not going to work out. It's like modern relationships. If the guy has a different character or the girl is a little different, the first thing the other people, not the couple, the other people would say, they are both are very different, this is not going to work out. She's a doctor and he's a painter, it's not going to work out at all. No, that's the stereotype which we have always seen. But anything which goes beyond our mental challenges, we simply do not want to accept it in the first day. But when we see it slowly, it's absorbing our attention, slowly it's working, things are actually happening. I think creative, like I say, the creative process, when deep spiritual process is involved in songwriting or filmmaking, you're actually connected, you're connecting to the future. You actually see things happening. Uh, I think a lot of people work differently. They have different ways of making songs, different process of creative art. But this is what I've felt since I was a child. Whenever I make songs, music, I get a intuitional feel that this is really going to work. It may take some time, but I should really stick to it. I should finish it. This is an inner call that always I hear within. And I'm so glad I can say it's the mercy of the God. It always worked.
Okay, now one interesting question comes up in mind. Okay, one hand, because a lot of non-creative people might be seeing this. There are no non-creative people in the world. I'm not judging. I'm just saying in terms of jobs.
Yeah.
Uh, so in terms of creative process, there is a certain sense of fragility that we approach any idea with. We are unsure. We are trying to figure out. Just today or yesterday, I think I sent you one reel on Insta, which was about this guy trying something and
Yeah,
then working or not working or whatever, they were trying to do something. So the idea is it is in a flux. It's not confidently put yet. It's being created yet.
exactly.
At the same time, suppose as an artist you get an idea which is revolutionary, specifically continuing the thread of conversation we've been having. It makes you even more fragile because even you are afraid, and that is a beautiful sense of fear. It is not fear that, oh, should I do it or not? It is trying to figure out, oh, where is this taking me? I have not gone here before, and you're still creating, still creating. Now, do you want to tell me certain sense of values that an artist should have to challenge himself? So, for example, one value that comes to my mind is when I try a new thing, every time a new job comes to me which I have not done before, I have this sense of fear. Oh my God, how am I going to write this script, or how am I going to approach this field? Uh, I have the confidence of so many years that I've worked, but as a job, oh, what am I going to write that is going to interest this new client? Or can I? And I feel this sense of fear or doubt in my own capability to deliver. When I begin, I find the first few steps in my mind and in my expression have this tentativeness, but there is certain point which comes with just tell me I'm going to do it. Now I know that I can do it because I've got what I've been struggling with.
Hmm.
Like how am I going to? When I started the values workshop, the podcast, first few times I had at least some pointers. My friend said, "Why are you doing it like this? Why is it not impromptu? Why can't you make it more authentic?" Because you're just calculating what will this answer mean to the audience. You're not being honest fully. How can you be? So we started it impromptu. Me and Sujata was doing it then, only one person. And both of us were willing to try that. And as we went on doing it, we realized that, oh, it's not that difficult because you walked this path before. So there is consistency that you spoke of.
Correct.
There's also the sense of humility that I don't know. And instead of seeing it as fear or a bad kind of fear, you say, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Do you want to tell me something about the value system that you particularly have inside you when you're trying a new thing? How does your inner process works, and what are the values that you hold good? How do you tackle this quote unquote not knowing?
Well, if we know about everything and if we know what's going to happen tomorrow, how boring would life would be? I mean, imagine yourself that you have discovered everything, nothing else remains to be discovered. Can you imagine life like this? Can you imagine life without risk? Can you imagine a life without uh, doing anything that you know what the answers are and what's going to happen? I think that is not really fun. I mean, that's not the purpose of life, at least in my point of
Okay.
view. And a person, a creative person, is a learner every day. For me, learning is quite important. And also, artists are lazy. We're known for our laziness. Something that is coming from the back kicks our ass, then only we start becoming creative. It's either a heartbreak or like this or some situation. So I think when I'm making music for an ad film or something, when they ask me to create something which I've never created before, uh, I've always followed my intuitions. It's a little hard to believe, but yeah, that is the truth. I've always followed my intuitions. My intuitions in the first meeting with the director tells that the director is expecting me that he asked me that Vishal, I want you to compose a proper Shastriya Sangeet composition for this ad film. Is it possible? Can you create something? So my first thought behind it, whether I should say yes or no, but there's always an inner call. Before I answer anything, I tell him I need, do I have time to get back to you on this in a day? He said, okay, if you can tell me this by evening is better. It's okay. So the first thing which I actually imagined is this first thing, why this job came to me. There's always some kind of things the universe wants to do with me. Either you learn or something, this and that. We meet people, we get projects, we get involved in creative projects for some purpose. And I get a lot of motivational related stuff, military, defense related stuff, advertisements, soundtracks. That's what they ask me for. So this was like a Shastriya Sangeet. And although I know about Indian classical music, but I'm not like exceptionally good or trained into that. But I have good ears. That's all I know. So one point, I think that we fear that it's a new place where we have to explore, or should I explore? Should I take this risk or not? But then I think about one important chapter in my life. I'll tell you what. I was 19 years old when my dad died, and I never imagined this could happen. 19 years old boy, and all the responsibilities were given on my shoulders. I did not even understand life properly back then. All I knew that I have to survive every attacks in life so that my family, my brother, my mom can be safe. That was the only thing was going in my head. And if I can take such a risky step in my life and still be survived, now today I'm 37. This is like a piece of cake for me. इसमें क्या करना है सीखना है ना so ये कितना क्या सीखना है so then I see I do have the knowledge of Indian classical somehow a little bit, but I've never composed anything like that. Maybe this is a time I should explore. And then I asked him that do I have any reference or anything, and I actually take the job in that case. I take the work not because it's new for me, but also it pushes me because I need money to survive. There's no other way. So I have to extract the gold out of it. And this I think is a situation where uh, creative people, musicians can actually see what they're capable of. Things वो बोलते हैं ना कीचड़ में ही कमल फूलते हैं. Teacher, the concept is what? Teacher is a very complex object, and Kamal is totally opposite of it, and is growing
Yeah.
from there. Means that this concept survives in the universe. So even if there's a lot of stress, lot of an anxious environment in the whole advertisement industry, you can still get this thing done properly. And I think this is where I think there's a lot of things creative with spiritual connection when spiritual process when I'm composing the classical music piece. Also, in the back, I have some kind of thing which is I'm feeling standing in the back is like I have to get this job done. I have given my commitment. There's no turning back. I have to make this sound great. And I have
Wonderful.
one.
I want to bring up one thing for the audience who's watching. Vishal is into hard rock most of the time. So he talking about Shastriya Sangeet, that is how big a leap that he's talking about. And that is the context. And sorry, you can continue. I wanted this.
No, like thank you so much, Mandy. I mean,
Yeah.
you have seen me since long,
Yeah.
long years. You have known me.
So how did this end? Did you get the Shastriya Sangeet piece right?
Yes, yes, yes. I got it. I've made the song instrumental track and got submitted.
Wonderful. One last question that is running in my head. This is a very deep conversation that is running, and very few times you get a chance to discover um, value systems on the core of where creation happens for people like us. But this is a good conversation in that sense. Uh, what I'm liking about the answer that you just gave also is the fact that instead of saying whether I'll be able to do it or not, or maybe it would have started it there, you gave it an umbrella perspective that in the entire world that this guy could have gone to, he's come to me. So how does this work? Why has this happened? And then you approached yourself, okay, the choice has already been made by the director that Vishal is one of the guys that I'm going to talk to. And you're empowering it with the sense of, okay, now let me start and think what can I do with it. Then you realize you use your rational mind saying, I have not done too much work in this. But then you go back to your intuitive mind saying, okay, let's see what do I really know about this subject. Going back and forth, and you then pushing yourself to say, let me figure it out. Let me say yes. It also helps me monetarily, which is one of the things that obviously in the world we all got to do. But it's not the only thing. There's also your acceptance of the fragility and throwing it back, saying, no, I will do it. Very often in today's world, me and my friends were discussing yesterday that the new generation is talking about anxiety and stress and depression. And I had a friend tell me, यार मेरा electric bill कौन भरेगा, मेरा water bill कौन भरेगा, मेरे पास anxiety का time नहीं है, stress तो मुझे भी बहुत है. So I got to do that, and I find it. I was laughing because such a simplistic answer to the entire problem of overthinking a problem. There are problems, but I like your approach also. It is, in fact, it's an example I'll try and use if some of my friends often call me when they are stressed. That look, the thing has come to you, and
No,
that is kind of karmic also.
that's true. There were some incidents where my music could not be selected because they were not happy with it. But at least even instead of running away from it, instead of not giving it a shot, you have worked on it. Even if this music track, the advertisement agency did not select your music track, that is also fine because then you learn that what did not work in this effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's again a beautiful thing because you're not going to repeat the same mistake ever again.
Also, I think it may not always be that the selection of the piece or getting paid for it is the reason. Sometimes it is just the experience and your own confidence. You may still think that the piece is good.
Exactly.
And you may think, okay, I will use this piece to fit it somewhere when the time comes. Again, it's a relook, reviewing, the time for the thing to come out will happen. I agree because there's also a turn of phrase.
I have to tell you, this is a good topic. I just want to add one
Yeah.
thing. Creating music for advertisements and films, I think the making process is emotional, but the final submission of music to agencies and production house should be completely non-attached.
Rational.
Yeah, I mean, my job is done, boss. This is all. Take it. You like it or don't like it. I'm only okay with that. I've seen a lot of young composers getting emotional when their songs don't get selected, when they're not getting selected and everything. But I told them that if you are getting emotional about it, you are in the wrong industry. you, you should only stick to releasing your own music then.
Yeah, and also I think the very first point you made on the podcast about the consistency part of it, the discipline part of it, we're all growing. We've been born as something because we are expressions of a certain kind of thought process, and our own discovery of our own self also rests on that. Because so often we spend a lot more time on work than anything else in this whole world. And finding meaning is a wonderful thing. I
Yes,
think
yes.
you started with that in a way without us realizing that was the thread of the conversation, but it is finding meaning for yourself and also landing up expressing it so that others can find their own meaning through our work if possible.
Very true. I think there is one thing we should be definitely proud of, that uh, once you're born as an artist, as a creative artist, as a writer, musician, actor, director, whatever, like there is no definitive creative. I mean, art is not the only creative thing. Creativity can be a lot. There's no
Yeah,
boundary
yeah.
of creativity. So I think once we realize that we are creative, whether we want it or not, we end up inspiring other people at one point of time. Isn't
Yeah,
that beautiful?
wonderful. So thank you so much for this conversation. There is
It's
a
an honor, bro. Thank you so much.
lot to ponder over, as well as enjoy much more. I shall see you soon off the camera sometime.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
thank you. Take care.
Bye.